Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 8. Today, we are going to build the third freight station on the main line. We will also finish setting up the crossings at the existing passenger stations, although we will not set up the correct routing. That is a bit more involved, and will take a long time, so I decided to do it piece by piece as the series goes on. If I did it all at once, that would be a bit boring to watch. And if you're a long-time visitor to this channel, you'll know that I don't like cutting out anything. Apart from that, we will do small things here and there, like rebuilding the Sudbury station, replacing the train with one that has the overground pane scheme, etc. etc. First, it's good we ended the episode here. I really want to redirect the mainline freight train to use the correct platform here, so they don't have to wait for each other. After redirecting it, we just need to let it leave the station, and then turn it around, so it can pick up all the grain waiting. It seems the routing is still not quite right. It uses the same track for entering and leaving. We have no warnings on top, but I would rather it use the two dedicated tracks for coming and going. Here, I finally managed to fall victim to my old habits, and set the lights as I would on a regular right-hand drive system. Let's fix that real quick. Well, the routing is still not right. Let's try to see what the cause is. The mainline off-ramp is fine. Oh, right. The only way to enter the platform is through a one-way signal. If we tell it to not be such a stickler, it should be okay. Okay, this will work. I suppose we can let this do it this way, as long as the trains use the correct lanes. Well, how about we finalize the lane switches at the stations once and for all? As usual, we will just try our best to keep the speeds on these switches at around 100 km per hour. In certain situations, it might be necessary to move some of the freight ramps back a bit, so we can make room for the station switches. As long as the speeds don't slow to a crawl, I'm okay with it. I still tried to deal with the routing a little bit, but I will give up in a little bit. I will come to the conclusion that it's best to deal with this aspect of this project after the switches are done. It will only get confusing if we do it right now. In fact, I was getting so confused, that I managed to shove one of the passenger trains onto the outer lane. When I saw that there was no such switch set up near the next station, which was required to route the freight correctly, I gave up on this for the time being. We need to deal with the tracks first, then we can do the routing. Of course, messing with the freight train pathfinding did mess with its brain, so now it's making a full lap around the ring. Before we knuckle down and deal with the switches, how about we go ahead and set up the third freight station for the main line? This time, for the towns of Camden and Wembley. We are well practiced with building these at this point, so we can knock this out relatively quickly. As usual, we need an overpass to go over the main line, so we can go over the tracks without disrupting traffic. Nice. The station is already elevated slightly, so the ramp is relatively flat. And here we go again. Every time I think that we might be able to get away with just hooking up to the main line, we get these ugly ramps. Thankfully, the other side is a bit easier. We don't need an overpass for this one. Now we just do the same thing, but on the other side. Not too bad. Perfect place for some small forests, or other thick foliage in the future. You know, I'm not sure we need a signal at the off-ramps of these freight branches. We do need them when they merge into the main line, but since switches act as block dividers when they split in two, then I think we might be able to get rid of a couple of them. After all, why would a train need to wait when the tracks are splitting? The next junction after these are quite far away, not like the lane changing switches at the stations, so yeah, I think we might be able to do these without the off-ramp signals. We still need them near the passenger stations, since those are much smaller crossing junctions though. Speaking of passengers, I think we might be at the point where we can increase the frequency of trains on the mainline services. We have more than enough people waiting in the stations to justify it. But not too much. One more in each direction will be enough. Now, we have this new freight station set up, how about we start using it? Since both of the nearby towns are demanding fuel, we could start doing some oil refining. We have some oil extraction going on at the Kilburn freight station, so that is a perfect place to pool the crude oil. This one was a bit too close for trains, so I decided to use trucks instead. Let's start with 5 trucks. We can increase it if necessary, but it's a test run, so no need to go overboard. And this is where I will mess this one up a bit. Oil refining is a 3-step process. Crude oil need to be turned into refined oil at a refinery, and then that oil can be further refined into fuel or plastic. I will manage to completely miss out on the first step, which I will only discover at the very end of the episode. But on the bright side, we will manage to set up everything else, so we only need to add one more line into the mix in episode 9. Well, since we are dealing with a relatively quiet country road, I think we can get away with building a level crossing in this case. What I need to be careful about is the level crossing itself. The tracks should be completely level ideally. They are known to develop some nasty looking bumps when we try to add level crossings when they are on a slope. As for the road, they will also try their best to look as ugly as possible, but they are much easier to deal with than the tracks are. I think we can make this road a bit smoother on this side, we just need to start the ramp a bit further away. Now that is much better. And we should be able to finish the rest of the tracks quite easily at this point. I don't think those tunnels are really justified. We still need a way for trains to enter this side branch somehow, so we need to add this too. To be perfectly honest, I think it might be time to build a second train depot at this point. We have one, but it can only enter the main line from one direction. If we had another one that can do it in reverse, then we could deal with these side entrances a bit more elegantly. It took quite a bit of loading to get this train into the game world. Sometimes, a couple modded locomotives can take some effort to render. And I already don't like it. That logo just doesn't look right. Now this is more like it. And the gray color matches the tankers at the back too. In the future, I might try to vary those tanker colors a little, we just need to add them one by one in the train assembly screen, changing the colors as we do so. But this will do for now. As for the next step, I think it's time to start using the freight trains on the main line in a one-way fashion. We have 3 stations already, and all of them are involved in some form of industrial cargo. Well, technically, the third one isn't, since the oil supply chain is not quite finished, but you know what I'm talking about. Now, about this circular freight route. The thing is, these need to have a specific platform set in each station to work correctly. If we want this to run counterclockwise, then we need to select the platforms that has the tracks come in, and leave in the right directions. It took me a couple minutes to sort this out. The telltale sign that something wasn't right, was that I saw the line color present on the sections of the main line where they shouldn't be. Basically, if there was green on the main line next to the stations, then the routing was wrong. If all worked well, then there should be no freight traffic between the 2 ramps of the same station. I just needed to stop messing with it for a second, think about which platform conform to which direction, and set them accordingly. Like here. This is the clockwise platform. We need the other one. Theoretically, this should be okay. But something still isn't quite right. And that was because of a signal that I placed in the wrong orientation. And suddenly, it's all working correctly. We have no more green lines on the main line where they shouldn't be, and the freight train will now run in a circle around the main line, as it should. Now, since I was still working toward moving the crude oil on the main line, I needed to change the train itself. Instead of just moving grain around, we needed to give it the ability to haul liquids too. I suppose we could just build the whole train out of these container cars alone. There are only a couple goods that they cannot carry. Okay, this guy seemed to be stuck. And it's not any kind of signal conflict either. Not a big deal. We can just turn it around, let it find its way to a station along its route, and it should be okay after that. Yeah, it's running in the middle. We will need to sort out the routing sooner or later. Which did remind me that we need to deal with those pesky station switches. So how about we knuckle down, and deal with them already? Thankfully, most of them are done already, so we only need to finish what we started. In some instances, we will need to trim back some of the freight branches a little to make room. And hey, it's that single floating signal I placed a couple episodes ago. Good thing I managed to stumble onto it. I forgot that it was there already. This one was almost done, just needed 2 more signals. In case it wasn't obvious. I kind of gave up on making it look pretty. When we enter the decorating phase, then I will worry about it. For now, let's just make it functional. We are getting close to the end. And that should do it. We have the correct lane switching present at all the stations. In the next episode, I will likely deal with the routing on the lines that use it. And then another line in the episode following that, so on and so forth. Now about this Sudbury train. I wasn't happy with the color scheme. I think a train with the overground paint job would look better. And there it is. But maybe not the 3-car version, that is a bit too short. 5 cars sound a bit better. And there it is. To be honest, I would have preferred to have the Class 710, that sleek looking one currently in use in real life. But I couldn't find it in the workshop. As for this station, I felt it would make more sense to have the station building at the end of the platforms, not out to the side. And as it happens, the road that could serve as the front street for it was just ever so slightly in the wrong position. At first, I tried to build it with the station in its current position. But, connecting the two ends to the town streets elevated that segment, so it looked quite bad. I think it's okay if we rebuild this whole place. Let's start with the road first. If we do it from scratch, then we might as well do it right. We could also give this station a nice arched glass roof. And you know what? We have the room for it, so we could also add 2 side entrances that connect to the 2 streets nearby. Whoa there buddy, who told you to spoil this nice looking station with your road building shenanigans? To prevent the AI from messing with this setup, we just need to claim these roads as our own. They can still build houses along these streets, but they are not allowed to build new roads from them. Now, the thing about the new freight route is that a single train is a bit too infrequent. If we add more of them, then the goods should flow more smoothly. and I decided that I don't like the white container cars on this train. The red ones should look a bit better, I think. For all intents and purposes, they are exactly the same, just have a different color scheme. You know, I haven't checked on the food factory all this episode. Let's see how it's doing these days. Whoa. It's level 3 already. But all our messing with the mainline freight did disrupt its deliveries, so it's in a downgrade cycle. Let's hope things improve now that things are sorted more or less. But, now that it's actually level 3, that means that we can add a third farm into the mix, since every level on the food factory can take in the full output of one farm. And we conveniently have one lined up on the grain delivery route, so we can hook that one up quite easily. We just need to tell the line to include that station in its list of stops. Okay, maybe in the next round it will make it to the end of the line. But, since we increased the amount of grain running down this route, we also need to increase the number of cars on the train itself. Okay, only 2 stations down, and it's already close to full. We need more cars. Technically, this is a special run, since the stations had more time to accumulate grain on the platforms, but it's easier to trim the cars down, rather than adding more. And it seems we have a lot of grain waiting on the Kilburn freight station too. This means that the single train going to the food factory is simply not enough to handle it. To remedy the situation, we just need to add a small passing section on the tracks, so the line can accommodate 2 trains running on the line. I can't clone this train. All this messing with the signals and routing, there is no way for trains to enter this particular branch now. The only way into that platforms is from this direction. Nope, that's wrong. Almost correct. Keep trying. Now we're talking. That's the correct track to hook up to. And the second train is already incoming. That should help deal with the throughput issues on this line. Also, why are there liquid containers on this train? We should only have solid foodstuffs on it. Well, no matter. Let's just say it's carrying drinks, or maybe corn syrup. Yeah, let's go with that. And I was happy to see that the food factory was busy upgrading to level 3 again. And I think this is it for today. It was a bit of a convoluted mess, but still managed to get some work done. So, in the next one, we should be able to start sorting out the routing on one of the mainline services, hopefully for the final time. And then we fix that oil production chain that I managed to mess up today, and we can also maybe start thinking about indiscriminately shoving as much freight onto the mainline as we can. This means that we might also need to consider designating a second freight service, only in the clockwise direction. After that, we can get rid of some of the superfluous connections around the freight stations, just to clean up a little bit. Yeah, we still have some work left to do. We also need to add that second train depot, that will be used to add trains into the network that can access the different branches from directions that are not possible at the moment. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.